and stuff. Now you're experiencing something of we've got a career resurgence, I wouldn't say that, but you're back on wrestling, you're back in Impact.
Scott Steiner did not just call 7 WWE legends overrated pussies, and he meant every single word. Before we get into the wreckage, let us be honest about who Scott Steiner actually was. This was not some loudmouth with nothing to back it up. Steiner was a legitimate All-American amateur wrestler at the University of Michigan. He came up the hard way, earning credibility side by side with his brother Rick as one of the most exciting tag teams of their generation. When he transformed into Big Papa Pump, that muscle was real, that intensity was real, and that athletic foundation was absolutely real. He was not playing a character. He was amplifying himself. He was a draw, must-see television, the kind of performer that made you stop whatever you were doing and pay attention. But here is where the story gets complicated. Scott Steiner had one gift that most wrestlers never develop, and one flaw that most wrestlers never survive. The gift was fearlessness. He was not afraid of anyone, not the bookers, not the executives, not the legends who had been in the business for 30 years before him. The flaw was that he could not turn it off. His mouth became a weapon pointed at everyone around him, and the people in the blast radius were rarely ready for what was coming. He called out legends. He called out champions. He called out the people running the whole machine. He called them overrated, fake tough, political puppets, and corporate frauds. Sometimes he was funny. Sometimes he was shockingly honest. And sometimes he went so far past the line, there was no coming back. Before we get into number 7, drop a comment telling us who you think Steiner went too far on, and subscribe if you want more stories where backstage drama got bigger than the match itself. Number 7, Vince and Stephanie McMahon. Steiner did not just go after wrestlers. He went after the people signing the checks. Over multiple years and public appearances, Steiner launched a full assault on WWE's corporate structure. And Stephanie McMahon was a regular target. He questioned her knowledge of the wrestling business openly, and used language in public that most people would not repeat in a quiet room. But underneath the ugly words, his actual argument had real substance. Steiner rejected WWE's Legends contract offers completely, calling the deal not worth the paper it was written on. His legal counsel backed him up, arguing the contracts were structured entirely to favor WWE. The company would profit from old footage, likenesses, and merchandise built on these men's careers, while performers received minimal money and lost the freedom to market themselves anywhere else. Steiner also attacked WWE's independent contractor classification. He pointed out the obvious contradiction, that wrestlers were controlled like employees in every meaningful way, but denied basic benefits. No healthcare, no pension, no 401k. He predicted the system would eventually bring serious legal trouble to the company. On that point, history was not entirely unkind to him. Number 6, Samoa Joe. This one is different, and it may be the most famous thing Scott Steiner ever did with a microphone. Leading up to TNA Sacrifice 2008, Samoa Joe was the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, defending the title in a 3-way match against Steiner and Kurt Angle. On May 1st, 2008, Steiner was given a live microphone on TNA Impact. And instead of a normal promo, he delivered what can only be called a mathematics lecture on why Samoa Joe had essentially zero chance of winning. He called himself a genetic freak, established that his biological superiority altered the standard probability of any match, and worked through a full calculation proving Joe was finished before the bell rang. He said Joe was slow, out of shape, and hailing from Dunkin' Donuts, from the great state of obesity. The promo had to be recorded twice, because nobody in the room could keep a straight face. Samoa Joe was standing behind the cameraman, trying not to laugh. Petey Williams was visibly cracking up. It became one of the most watched promos in wrestling history. Then the match happened, and Angle withdrew due to injury. Frankie Kazarian replaced him. Fans immediately pointed out that this broke Steiner's entire equation because Kazarian actually wanted to win. The math collapsed. Samoa Joe retained the title. The promo was legendary, but it was still built entirely on mocking another man's body and calling him unworthy, which was the only playbook Steiner knew. Number 5, Shawn Michaels. Steiner grouped Shawn Michaels with Triple H and Ric Flair as 3 of the biggest pussies to ever work in wrestling. His criticism went in multiple directions. He attacked the backstage power that Michaels and the Clique held over the WWE locker room during the 1990s, accusing them of deliberately damaging the careers of performers they saw as threats. He pointed to Bam Bam Bigelow and Chris Candido as wrestlers whose momentum was sabotaged through Clique influence. He connected Michaels to the toxic environment surrounding Tammy Sytch and Candido, arguing that Michaels' behavior contributed to serious personal damage in Candido's life. He also mocked Michaels for posing in Playgirl magazine in 1996, and characterized his entire on-screen persona as a Chippendales act rather than a legitimate tough guy. Steiner wanted the world to see Michaels not as a legend, but as a soft, politically protected figure who used corporate access to survive while people around him suffered.
The personal nature of the attacks made clear this was not professional criticism. This was a man who genuinely despised another man and had a microphone to prove it. Number 4. Triple H. Scott Steiner arrived in WWE in 2003 for a high-profile championship program, and it went badly. Part of the reason was physical. Steiner was dealing with a drop foot injury caused by nerve damage that affected his movement in the ring. He felt WWE management knew about it and chose to expose him rather than protect him creatively. The matches suffered, the run stalled, and Steiner carried that bitterness into every interview that followed. He went after Triple H from every angle. He said Triple H was overrated, had no authentic athletic background, and held his spot solely through backstage manipulation and his marriage into the McMahon family. He called Triple H the Kevin Federline of professional wrestling, meaning famous for who he married rather than what he could do. He accused him of being obsessed with passing Ric Flair's world title record as a personal vanity project. He mocked a statue Triple H reportedly had built honoring Flair, joking that since there was no physical WWE Hall of Fame building, it was probably sitting in Triple H's living room. Steiner had a real grievance buried in there. Being injured and then publicly exposed is a legitimate complaint, but the attacks drifted so far into personal territory that the original point disappeared entirely. Number 3. Diamond Dallas Page. This one did not stay verbal. The conflict with Diamond Dallas Page during WCW's final year started with a locker room rumor. DDP's then-wife, Kimberly Page, was alleged to have reported drug paraphernalia in the women's locker room to corporate management, triggering a drug test for Tammy Sytch. Sytch tested clean, but the locker room damage was done. Steiner blamed Kimberly and reportedly chased her out of the arena. On December 18, 2000, he brought the grievance public during a live episode of Monday Nitro, cutting an unscripted promo aimed directly at Kimberly and challenging DDP. He had long viewed Page as an overrated talent, protected by his friendship with executive Eric Bischoff. When they got backstage, DDP came looking for Steiner near the tunnel. The argument turned physical immediately. According to wrestlers who witnessed it, Steiner used his amateur background to dominate Page completely and attempted to gouge his eye. Security broke it up, but DDP required hospital treatment for eye injuries. They eventually resolved enough tension to work WCW's final pay-per-view, Greed, in March 2001. But the moment stands as one of the clearest examples of Steiner's mouth pulling a situation into territory no promo was worth. A man ended up in a hospital. Number 2. Ric Flair. If you want to trace the beginning of Steiner's war on the wrestling establishment, it starts here. In January 1991, at Clash of the Champions 14, Steiner challenged Ric Flair for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. The match ran 25 minutes and ended in a time-limit draw. Steiner believed Flair, who had enormous creative influence as a booker, had deliberately held him back to protect his own spot. That belief never left him. 9 years later, it exploded. On February 7, 2000, during a live episode of WCW Monday Nitro in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Steiner went completely off script. He attacked Flair's appearance, saying Flair had more loose skin than a Shar-Pei puppy. He called Flair Nature Boy Number 2 and argued Flair had stolen his entire identity from Buddy Rogers without inheriting any of Rogers' class. He said Flair belonged in a nursing home. Then he broke company loyalty entirely by declaring that WCW sucked and that fans were switching channels to watch Stone Cold Steve Austin on WWE, a man Steiner claimed jealous people like Flair had previously run out of WCW. Steiner received a 2-week paid suspension. Flair reportedly wanted him fired, but WCW's reliance on Steiner's drawing power kept him on the roster. Decades later, when asked about Flair's 2022 comeback match, Steiner was still sharpening the same knife, saying he would destroy Flair and that everybody wanted to see him get beat up. Some grudges never fade. This one had roots down to the bone. Number 1. Hulk Hogan. This is where Scott Steiner's refusal to control himself nearly ended his freedom entirely. He had criticized Hogan's creative control and backstage politics for years, going back to late WCW. But in 2015, the conflict stopped being about wrestling history. Steiner had been close with Randy Savage, and he was furious when WWE announced Hogan would induct Savage into the Hall of Fame during WrestleMania 31 weekend. Steiner believed Hogan and Savage had genuine personal hatred for one another for decades, so the induction felt like a performance of friendship that had never existed. On March 26, 2015, Steiner encountered Hogan's wife, Jennifer Bollea, at San Jose International Airport. According to Steiner, he approached quietly, said Hogan was a piece of trash for inducting Savage, and stated his intention to slap Hogan the next time they met. What came next was dramatic. Hogan's side contacted the San Jose Police Department and alleged Steiner had physically grabbed Jennifer and made threats classified as terroristic, carrying a potential prison sentence of 15 to 20 years. Steiner was placed under active police investigation. The situation was resolved only because the incident happened directly under airport security cameras. The footage showed Steiner had not touched Jennifer Bollea, which dismantled Hogan's version of events entirely. Despite the video clearing him, WWE acted on Hogan's account and circulated Steiner's photo to every entry point at the 2015 Hall of Fame ceremony, with instructions to remove him if he appeared. Steiner later called Hogan a coward who used police departments to fight personal battles. Even if his version was accurate, Steiner still chose to approach someone's wife at an airport over a grudge. He opened that door himself, and what almost walked through it was a felony charge. Look at the complete picture. Steiner went after Flair for politics. He went after DDP for backstage protection. He went after Triple H and Michaels for click control. He went after Hogan for hypocrisy. He went after Samoa Joe for being overrated. He went after Vince and Stephanie for corporate greed. And in almost every case, there was a real point buried beneath the explosion. Wrestling did have politics. Veterans did protect their spots. WWE did have serious questions about how it treated the people who built it. But his delivery destroyed his own argument every single time. He turned criticism into personal attacks. He turned promos into real fights. He turned a Hall of Fame weekend into a criminal investigation. He left DDP in a hospital and burned connections that could have served him. And yet, here we are, watching a video about him, because Scott Steiner remains impossible to ignore. He was real in an industry built entirely on pretending. He may have gone too far on every name on this list, but nobody could ever accuse him of being fake. Comment below and tell us which Steiner rant crossed the line the most. Subscribe for more stories where the wrestling got very, very real.